Trump was the vaccine America needed. He exposed the deep state and fought back against the woke maniacs destroying everything Americans revered. They attacked George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They took over the NFL, the FBI, and the NBA. Trump stood alone against the Leviathan longing to destroy the United States from within. A.J. Rice, author and president of Publius PR, takes on this Leviathan in his new book, The Woking Dead: How Society's Vogue Virus Destroys Our Culture. He understood why America needed Trump even before it was in vogue. Rice is the ultimate DC media insider who has produced or promoted Laura Ingraham, Judge Jeanine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Alan Dershowitz, Peter Navarro, Victor Davis Hanson, and many more. Many of Trump's closest advisors have sought out A.J. Rice's media advice. Rice has fought behind the scenes for years in ways you saw and heard but never understood until now. Hilarious, biting, hard-hitting. Available on Amazon.com. Stop what you're doing right now and pick up a copy of The Woking Dead.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interest, and we never will be. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today to our digital edition at theepochtimes.com and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. Read the difference on all your devices. We'd love to have you on board.
Broadcast Cal here with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand up and say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job, everyone. Now get out there and explore, discover, and create. Broadcast Cal out.
Good morning, and welcome to the Kevin Allen Show. This is our Monday show here. It is January 30th. Can't believe how fast things are just moving along. 2023 is off to a big running start. Of course, we knew the excitement going into 2023 was going to be real. We knew going into 2023, building up to 2024. Of course, that big election, the presidential election, is working really just, every day seems to be the build up towards this big, I guess it's going to be the debates that take place. It's going to be the same old stuff that we saw back in 2020, the same stuff we saw back in 2016. You see, in this great country, one of the things we get to do is exercise our democracy. But can we? Is democracy real? Is it a real thing? Is the republic for which we stand real in America today? You see, when you look at the laws, the lawmakers, those people that go across this country and travel and spout off the anti-American rhetoric, those people that continue to drive a narrative of divide in this country, even though they get a pass from corporate media, even though they get a pass from their own party. Many people criticize me in a lot of ways for my support of Donald Trump. And I get it. I understand why Donald Trump isn't for you if that's the case. But I would ask everyone that says those same very things to take the man out of it, take the face, remove the picture of Donald Trump and look at the policies under his administration, not just compared to this one, but let's compare him to the previous administration. And I think when you look at the previous administration and what they were able to do, there were certainly some significant positive changes under Barack Hussein Obama. I say that not tongue in cheek. I say that truly, honestly. And I am not a Barack Hussein Obama fan. I don't think he is a very patriotic fellow in the same way that I believe me being patriotic. I think Barack Hussein Obama took advantage of an opportunity, which any man in his position would have. He was picked out of a lineup, no pun intended, as a candidate to get involved in the political scene in America. He was chosen, and I often refer to him as the first born identity president. Some people think that sounds crazy, but I don't. I think when you look at Barack, he has a platform that is ginormous. You look at where him and Michelle are now, and by the way, we'll talk more about Michelle and her 2024 bid for president. It is real, folks. And if you think for a moment that Michelle's not coming out in 2024 to run for president, you are sadly mistaken. This is happening in front of your eyes, and you're not paying attention if you're not listening, if you're not watching, if you're not listening to the media, to the noise, like Kenny Chesney's song says. Listen to the noise, because the noise will tell you where we're going. Later on the show, we're going to have our guy, Motor Cop Chronicles. He has a podcast. He comes on the show often, Iceman. He'll come on. He's an active police officer in this country today. And he's going to talk about what took place down in Memphis last week. Crazy thing is, I was driving. I think we were driving right by Memphis about 2 or 3 days after this incident took place. I wanted to go, pull in there with the Uber driver I had last week. Not realizing I was on the road, what really was trending with this story. And I got to tell you, the more we find out about this story of Tyre Nichols, of course, I'm talking about the young man who was beaten like a dog in the streets of Memphis by officers, police officers. Now, I'm a pro cop all day long. Never deny my loyalty to the police officers, men and women across this country. I will not back down with that support. And quite honestly, I had a conversation with a good friend yesterday, and it was really a quick one, and I'm looking forward to more of it. He happens to be a black man and happens to be a very successful individual and has lots of people around the country he talks to, celebrities. And he said he was with a group of people the night before, his friends, and we were just talking briefly, and he's like, a lot's being talked about how these 5 black cops are being treated. And I thought to myself, why? Why are there just 5 bad people? Weren't there just 5 terrible humans that took advantage of a position they were given, the authority they were given by a broken system? You see, we don't think enough about how this happened. We just chalk it up to slavery, right? It's all because of slavery. It's all because of bad white people that made bad decisions. People that aren't related to me, know me, connected to me. I don't even care if they are related to me. I don't got nothing to do with what those stupid people did many years ago. So stop using race as an excuse for bad behavior. That's what I have to say. It's simple. If you're a bad person, you don't get away with it because you're black. If you're a bad person, you don't get away with it because you're white. Now, I will say that in the history of this country, many more white people, me included, have gotten away with things just because of the color of my skin. That's a fact. And any of us that deny that aren't being honest. We're not being truthful to the actual meaning behind fixing this problem in America. Barack Hussein Obama, he's a classic. I love, I don't love. In fact, it's tragedy typically that I go and chase this down the rabbit's hole. But I go right on to Barack's Twitter account. And Michelle, of course, they did a joint release together. And the words are very inspiring. I mean, the vicious, unjustified beating of Tyre Nichols and the ultimate death at the hands of 5 Memphis police officers is just the latest painful reminder of how far America still has to go fixing how we police our streets. Folks, this is the guy, Barack Obama, who caused this. In some ways, Tyre wouldn't have been dead. I mean this sincerely, and this might get some shock, jock reaction from some of you people. And I really, quite frankly, want to have conversations, not arguments. But Tyre Nichols was put in the position he was because 5 officers, unqualified, they lowered the standards. Barack, let's go back to 2000. What was it? Ferguson. Mark, please, if you could, look up Ferguson. I always jumble in numbers. I think it was 12 or 14. Barack Hussein Obama, it had to have been 14, I think, in office. Or maybe it was earlier than that. Quite honestly, I'm forgetting exactly. Michael Brown, the Ferguson. We all remember it. What happened in Ferguson when a individual, Michael Brown, sad, tragic story, dead at the hands of a police officer who was defending his life. The officer was defending his life. You see, why I'm a little fired up this morning is Barack Hussein Obama. He tweeted about that then. Mr. Tweeter, he wanted to start a war, a race war in this country day one when he got in office. Why? Because he was indoctrinated to do so. He was taught that this is the way you fix America. By dividing America will fix America. That's the policies under Barack Hussein Obama. We saw it with our own two eyes. We felt it. We felt it ever since. The lingering effects of this president, the 44th president, have been still obvious. When you see his tweet from him and Michelle about this really tragic situation, they don't take ownership. They don't take 1 ounce of ownership for inspiring people to be divided in this country, for inspiring people to go out and burn down police stations. And once, obviously, at the end of the day, folks, it's simple. 2014, thank you, Mark. That's when it took place, and I'm referring to the Ferguson incident with Michael Brown and the officer who was cleared by the grand jury, who was also cleared by whom? The people of the community of Michael Brown, the witnesses, folks. Not once did Barack Hussein Obama come out and recant any of his stupid comments in the beginning. I don't care if he's got a Yale and a Harvard degree and he's a brilliant guy, which he's all that, and a bag of chips. But he doesn't take any responsibility. He takes no ownership for what he's done in this country. And when you think about it from the perspective of just where we are in this country today, we wouldn't be in this divided situation if Barack Hussein Obama had been more responsible in his position as president of the United States. I believe that truly. I believe that honestly. And some could say to me, hey, Kevin, you know what? If you're going to be that way, you better be that way with your guy, Donald Trump. And you know what? I'll accept that as a conversation. I will accept the fact that there are things that when we put people in power, in these positions of power, like president, obviously, or any of these other positions like senator here in Connecticut, Chris, the worst senator from Connecticut, Murphy. See, Chris Murphy, we'll get into him later on the show, but I got a whole nother thing about him. I don't hate anyone except for pedophiles. And Mark, I'm working on that one, but I don't think God's going to guide me in that direction. Sorry. I don't hate Barack Hussein Obama. I don't hate Al Sharpton. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate Chuck Schumer. I don't hate Nancy Pelosi. I don't hate any of them. What I personally hate is the ability for these people to get up to these podiums and straight-face lie to the American people just to gain power. Just to gain power. Qualified immunity. It's going to be a conversation you're going to hear a lot about. Why? Cory Booker and Tim Scott are going to go back on it in the Senate floor. Now, guys, remember this, you bunch of supporters, blind supporters of the movement. Tim Scott put together some legislation during the Trump administration's era, the 45th president, put it onto the floor. See, they wouldn't pass that then because they didn't want to give any credit. See, politics is about credit, folks. It's about playing who wins, who loses, and who gets a better scorecard. These people, the insanity of the left in this country, led by Barack Hussein Obama and Michelle Obama, has put us in this situation. Tyrese Nichols, I listened to his mom speaking. What a tragedy. I can't imagine what it's, I don't even want to imagine what it's like to go through this situation. And yes, Black moms and dads and families and communities across this country suffer from this plague that has been going on for years in this country. Why? Bad policy. Bad policy. Simple. Instead of Barack Hussein Obama coming out and saying, you know what, maybe we were wrong attacking the law enforcement. Maybe those few hundred officers who were killed since I was in office because of me and my bad rhetoric, maybe I should have taken a different path. Maybe me and Michelle shouldn't say these comments now. Maybe we shouldn't try to be so instrumental in the change in this type of way where we divide a country to try to fix a country. Folks, I'm all about a good argument. I'm all about a good fight. And I'm all about coming up to the podium and honestly answering questions. But when all we see regurgitated from people like Barack Obama, Joe Biden's inconsequential, folks. The 25th Amendment will be enacted. Joe Biden's gone this year. We need to talk about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and all that stuff right now. Because I'm going to tell you right now, what's going to happen over the next 12 months is race. It's back, folks. It's back. Race baiting is back, and it's back in a really fashionable way because, listen, every time there's one of these crimes, and I'm going to give a shout out to Ben Crump. I can't wait to meet Ben. I'm going to meet Ben Crump this year. 2023, I will meet Ben Crump, the famed attorney who is now representing the family of Tyre Nichols, this young man's life who was snuffed early because of 5 terribly unqualified police officers. Unqualified because they got into the position of power because of political movements in this country that allowed them to obtain positions of authority as police officers in an unqualified resume. Folks, you can't make it up. You can't make it up. You know, I heard Tyre's mom, and I don't question her words. I don't sit here and criticize anything she said. But she was especially offended that these were black officers that killed her son. And I understand her position. I really, truly do. You would think people of their own kind would defend their own kind. Is that the theory? Is that the theory that people black wouldn't beat black people? Folks, black on black crime is the worst thing that's going on in this country, but nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. You know, California mass shootings. Folks, there are mass shootings in the streets across this country every day. And the same young, impressionable, poor, ethnic individuals, and most of them are. That's a fact, folks. I'm not trying to, in the inner cities, in Democratic-controlled facilities or communities across this country, these are crimes that are committed because of the watering down of police across this nation has been since Obama has been the move. Now we see situations like this. And how many more of these are going to happen? How many more senseless killings in America because of Barack Hussein Obama will take place? You tell me. Mark, I don't know if you can look it up. Of course, I'm talking to Mark, our producer. Let's bring Mark on. I'm fired up today, and I apologize. So, Mark, how you doing, brother?
Good. Top of the morning to you, everyone. You caught me researching another story.
Oh, you're always working. And sorry, I'm fired up today. It's my 3rd cup of coffee this morning. And, you know, I just look back and, you know, I want to share with you, talking to you. And we do have some guests coming on. I think Baby Joe Visconti's coming on. Motorcop Chronicles. Iceman's going to come on. He's an active police officer. We'll get his take on this Tyrese, situation. It's obviously Tyre Nichols, is a tragedy in America. Your thoughts on what took place there with Tyre Nichols in Memphis, Mark, what's your thoughts on this?
Try to put it nicely since you're so fired up. It's just disgusting. I don't think it was a race issue. It was just bad human beings. Simple as that.
Good versus evil.
That's all it was. And what they did was undefendable. They murdered somebody.
That's right. That's right. They did murder him, and they're going to. But you know, and I'm gonna throw this out there. You can chop on it a little bit and think about what I'm saying, and hopefully the folks that are listening will as well. And comment, please, guys. I want to hear your comments on this. I truly believe you're going to see a movement to defend these 5 cops by communities of diversity in this country. I'm gonna come right out and say it, that they're going to give an excuse to the behavior of these terribly unqualified cops by excusing it because of the movement in this country. I'm Mark, I hope I'm wrong on a Monday, the 30th of January, but I feel like I'm right.
I don't see it going that way. I see everyone getting thrown under the bus for it.
Well,
and I'm actually hoping and praying justice will be served. You know, they deserve a right to a defense. Their side of the story, they should be tried in a court of law and let the justice system deal with it.
I agree with you. And, we talked a little bit about qualified immunity, unqualified immunity. The qualified immunity issue with Tim Scott and now Cory Booker is going to take place on the Senate floor. And it's going to be a really big debate. We're going to have to see how it plays out. So we have a lot of topics to get into today. We're obviously going to stay on this one for a little bit. And we'll talk about some of the other craziness in the country. Mark, what's some of the stuff you're traveling your trending news that you're looking at today?
I'm just following up some stuff with General Flynn. General Flynn will not be on this morning. I did get an email late last night. Something's going on, and it was an emergency. Didn't ask, and they will be rescheduling shortly.
Okay, so General Flynn is still coming on the show at some point, guys. I had some people, because we did make mention of that, so he'll be back on according to Mark. Mark, let's get right going in here, too. I'm going to put you back in the back room. Thanks so much, brother. Keep on doing the hard work. The guy that makes it happen, Mark right there, Mark, our producer, very much appreciated. So I opened with my rant, if you want to call it that. That pain's not going to, that energy's not going to go away today or after the show ends. It's really something that I feel like I have been called to do. I mean, I know that I have already made a very strong statement. I'm going to stand up and defend children in this country from the overreaching, crazy over-sexualizing of students in schools across this country, 4 and 5 years old, trying to teach them that transgender choices are making sense at that age is absolutely insane. But what I will tell you is one of the greatest qualities I have, I'll be honest, I don't often pump myself up, I guess. One of the greatest qualities I have is I truly do look to solve this race issue all times. I did in my body of work. My life has been based on this, even though I talk the way I talk, and some people think it's shock value. But I have serious conversations with really good friends, people that I know are powerful, thinking individuals that can make and affect change. And I can't for the life of me understand why we just simply can't point, like Mark just said, bad versus good, evil versus good. This is simple stuff, folks. It's not rocket science. It's the same way that we played on the playground when we were kids. Same way that you should teach your children. Do the right thing, not the wrong thing, and you'll be okay. We see we live in a society filled with excuses for bad behavior. And they were able to create this energy underneath our noses as Americans, underneath our very being as Americans, to not realize during this transition coming out as you look going back. And we've had many challenges in this country with race going back as far as you can begin. And truly the greatest leaders in this country that get an association with race now don't even fit into the narrative of what they're fighting for. Martin Luther King today, in the words that he spoke during his time, in the history that he represented this battle against race in America, would not be in line with Barack Hussein Obama, would not be in line with the Ben Crumps and the people of this country who are trying to divide a country. And folks, don't be surprised by Ben Crump's financial status. And listen, man, if he gets paid, get paid. I'm not criticizing that at all. But people like this really live for the moment. They live for the moment. And you know what? I think he was an ambulance chasing attorney who found himself an opportunity. George Floyd's situation made him millions and millions of dollars. And there is a lot of money in race baiting, folks. It happens on both sides. Both the extreme left and the extreme right played this game right to us. And what do? We fall victim for it each and every time. We jump right into the cesspool of nonsense and get into these debates. If you want to fix it, come to the table with real honesty and an open heart. Come to the table with the ability to speak, and come to the table willing to actually fix this problem of race in America. Barack Hussein Obama, don't just issue tweets. Don't go out and stir the pot again, as you love to do. Come to the table with real solutions, Barack. Obviously, Michelle is getting ready for her 2024 election, so this is all going to be very timely for her. Who would have known that would take place, right? Jump on the moment. Never a wasted moment in America in politics, that's for sure. Chris Murphy from Connecticut, speaking about never a wasted moment. Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, third term or second term, Mark? I'm not sure, actually. I'm trying to figure out. I'm thinking back I think it is his third term, or maybe it's his second term. It's 12, or there'll be 12 years. So he has 2 terms in. Is this going to be his third term he's running for? Because this is going to be a good one here in Connecticut, folks. And I don't really actually see Chris Murphy running. Actually, I see a short list. I see Tong, the Attorney General. And wait, let me start why I don't see Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, running for office again. Well, you see, Chris has positioned himself very smartly to be on the short list for vice president. You think I'm crazy? You're not paying attention. He's on a short list to be president of the United States, or vice president. He's not presidential. He's too arrogant and a little too pasty white for that. But I will say that he fits the bill. Did you see Michelle Obama and Vice President Chris Murphy at the podium? Couldn't you see it? I will say, at least in Chris Murphy's case, we'd have a vice president who doesn't cackle all the time. He's not a dumb guy, but he's a sneaky son of a gun, isn't he? He's a little snake of a guy. He loves to slide through life, just making these little, silver spoon, white boy comments out, stir the pot. You have a Chris Murphy story. I was down in D.C. Probably 6 years ago. I was down at went down with a congressional for a meeting with Joe Courtney then, and Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal. I was representing a group of organizers in Connecticut. We're at a big drug and alcohol prevention conference in D.C. And we got a chance to actually meet with our delegation, which was really cool to do. And Chris Murphy comes running in and Richard Blumenthal comes running in and to the room and they give a spiel and they said the right things. I'm not going to be disrespectful. They did the right things. But something caught me really weird that day. Chris Murphy had white socks on with a suit on. Now, maybe he was working out and he had to come on down quick or maybe he just didn't care enough to take his white socks off. And guys, I'm not big into dressing, whatever. I'm not going to go for the new senator from Pennsylvania style of dressing with a hoodie on. But I'm definitely somebody that really qualifies people by how they present. You see, Chris Murphy has been in a position of authority for many years. He's a white guy from Connecticut, silver spoon brought up, almost bankrupt until he became a millionaire, multimillionaire as a senator. How do U.S. Senate and congressmen become so rich? Chris, I would love to ask that question, right, Mark? How do you get into the U.S. Senate, make $170,000 a year or $60,000 a year? How do you become a multimillionaire? I mean, are we really concerned in this country about fixing race? Because let's fix that problem first. Let's qualify let's have qualified immunity for our elected officials. Maybe there's a novel one, qualified immunity for elected officials. The other part I'd love to see is let's put cameras on them. They're doing the people's business 24/7, right? Let's camera. I want to hear from one elected official across this country who would be willing to camera up 24/7. Let's see exactly behind the scene. Let's see what's going on, Chris Murphy, with all those sneaky little deals you're making as you slide through Washington, D.C., positioning yourself for a vice presidential run in 2024 with Michelle Obama. I'm confident he's on the list. And I'm confident that somebody like Tong, possibly, maybe, I could see the lieutenant governor, her arrogance, thinking she's qualified to do that. And she's qualified. Who's not qualified to be the U.S. Senate when you have the U.S. Senate that we have? And folks, there's plenty of examples of Mitch McConnell and the scum of the earth that represent the Republican Party in Washington, D.C. So I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking more about Chris Murphy and this insanity to continue to divide this country. See, Chris Murphy made a business card out of Sandy Hook, folks. He made a business card out of Sandy Hook. Anti-gun Chris Murphy's been going across this country. He travels over to Ukraine. He's in the middle of it all. And what he loves to do most is divide our country with his arrogant, sarcastic, stupid mouth, his wet lips moving. I know, Mark. I'm trying. I'm trying hard not to be mean. But it's hard not to be upset when you witness firsthand. You see what somebody like he can do. And you imagine if Chris woke up tomorrow, he had 3 ghosts visit him, like a Christmas Carol. 3 ghosts of political past, political future. What's the other ghost? I don't even remember from Christmas Carol. Could you imagine if he actually had a chance to feel that energy, that positive, wow, we can fix this problem. This tragedy of Tyre, we need to fix the problem. We should never beat up on our cops. I'm so sorry to the Connecticut police officers, the ones that I actually put a bill on the House or on the Senate floor. This is Chris Murphy, senator from Connecticut, to remove cops. Where from? Schools of all places. What we want to protect. The very guy, right? Think about this for a moment. Chris Murphy, the U.S. senator from Connecticut, who puts Sandy Hook on his business card, who goes around the country promoting anti-gun policies, takes guns out of the hands of legal gun-owning citizens of America, but yet wants to support the same things that are going on in this country: open borders, decriminalizing every law, defunding law enforcement. Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, but yet he gets and he does these heartfelt tweets and feels bad about what, Chris? You created this. You and Barack and the rest of you created what we're dealing with today over the last 10, 12, 14 years. You all have put your hands into the cookie jar. And when you get caught, what do you do? What do? You point a finger. You do another tweet to deflect from what your responsibility is. Instead of being an honest, open, God-fearing man, an American patriot that none of you are, you continue the same old narrative of divide this country into a race war. Why? It's all about 2024's election. Back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show. I think our guy, Motor Cop Chronicles, Iceman's on the, I think he's queued in here. We're going to get him on when we come back. We'll get his take on what took place down in Memphis with this tragedy. 5 police officers will be arraigned today. We'll see how it all goes. Back in a moment on the Kevin Allen Show. And welcome back right here to the Kevin Allen Show. Of course, we come to you Monday through Friday. We're going to be some changes, folks, on the time schedule. We got some changes. We're looking at the analytics, right? Is that what you call it, Mark? The analytics. We're looking at all the numbers, and we're going to change some things around that actually hit a bigger audience across the country. We did some real amazing work over last year. Things are ticking up. We'll talk about that later. But more importantly, right now, we have our friend Iceman, of course, Motor Cop Chronicles. He has his own podcast, and I got to become a fan of his show, and he's been on mine. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm upset. I will admit, today is a hard day. It's a hard day in America. To imagine to be a cop in America today must be even worse. Let's talk about that situation in Memphis. Your take on it?
Well, it's 5 people that, well, I don't know if they're still in jail, but they got arrested and they went to jail and they're staying trial and they deserve it because it don't look like they should have been wearing a badge.
You just said something. I want to, and I apologize. I just want to ask you your opinion, though. They shouldn't be wearing a badge. You just said that, and a lot of people are really becoming very critical of the fact that they've watered down the requirements for law enforcement, of course, based on a lot of this political nonsense that took place, anti-cop stuff. What's your thoughts on how these 5 cops even became cops?
Well, after George Floyd, of course, they wanted more diversity, I guess you want to call it, in the law enforcement. So to check boxes, I think they lowered their standards to make new hires to check boxes off, instead of hiring people that passed the test and qualified for it. And they just lower standards because somebody might check a box off instead, which is a problem with any type of job you go into.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the qualified immunity conversation, right? That was big in the police world. It still is big. It's had federal energy. In fact, right now we're going to watch Tim Scott and Cory Booker get on the Senate floor eventually over the next month or so and debate that very topic. Qualified immunity. How's that affecting you and your job in currently as a police officer in America?
Well, only people, they think qualified immunity, like, is immunity against being charged with a crime. It's not. All qualified immunity does is kind of protection of me getting sued personally over stuff. So if they remove qualified immunity from law enforcement, you're going to lose a lot more law enforcement personnel, because I could make a traffic stop and somebody decides they just want to sue because I pulled them over and they're mad now. They don't sue me personally.
Right. And I didn't mean to present it the wrong way. I clearly know what qualified, and I thank you for putting it out clearly. But the point is, there is some looming. Some of that is looming still, and it's probably going to resurface because of this tragedy. Has your state put it to a vote yet?
We had a thing. I think last year it came up. Everything got shot down, so they tried to change it. It got Sheriff's Association and all kinds of stuff came out, and they were able to shoot it down. So I don't know if it'll come back up in the next session or not.
Do you think a lot of what we saw as an officer, and how long you been on the job again, Ice?
27 years now.
You've been doing it a while.
Yes.
So you understand. So you've also seen some really big social changes in our country. 27 years ago, the way you spoke to people on the street probably isn't the same way you do today, is it?
No, it's totally different. I'm like, I consider myself a dinosaur. When I first started learning policing, it's totally different what policing is today.
Yeah. Let me ask you. Do you work in communities of diversity? Are you on the high? Where's your position that you're typically at?
Well, I'm a motorcycle cop, so I'm everywhere, and the parish or area I work in is mostly they're black, so I work in that community majority all the time.
And do you have community allies that you work with, folks that maybe have been in trouble before, or people that maybe are trying to fight against crime in their communities? Have you worked on those allies in your job?
No, I mean, I get out. I've always been a big community advocate police officer. Get out, walk around, talk to people. Don't drive by and just stink eye people. I've always been that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I've never worked with anybody in the community itself in particular.
Okay. Well, I mean, I asked the question because I think a lot of us, are really interested in the aspect of what it's like to be a cop today in this really, I'd have to say, the word is overused, but wokeness that's taking place across the country. And you look at what took place in Memphis, what I've been able to read up to this point, Ice, has been that these individuals didn't even qualify for police prior to the changes at the national movement level. And again, I go back to Barack Hussein Obama and Ferguson situation. But what's your thoughts when they say on a resume, well, you could be a felon? And believe me, I believe in second, third, fourth. I believe in chances for everyone. But I also believe we need to have qualified people if we want to have responsible people carrying guns and effecting arrests without having issues like this. What are we going to do to fix that problem?
They have to stop worrying about checking boxes first off. You start worrying about bring your standards back up. Personally, where I work, if you're a felon, you're not going to get a job. Now, if somebody gets there, their charge is expunged, because after so many years, whatever you can get it expunged and taken off, give that person a chance. But just don't say, well, they did this, Now, you don't want to hire somebody that was a previous had drug problems to go do police work and work in narcotics.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's been times in our history, Ice, that we've seen people jump into these, the politicians of the day. They push forward this concept of let's get, look at what's going on in Seattle, Washington, right? I mean, Seattle, Washington hired a pimp, a drug dealing pimp, to provide security for the downtown area. Do you remember that was going on 3 years ago?
That's just asinine. Like we're talking about Seattle.
Yeah, but it's still part of the United States of America, and the trends that are continuing through. And I just guess, so what's the talk in the locker room right now? You see this incident take place in Memphis. You guys are cops. Did roll call address this, or are you guys talking about this? What's going on from your perspective on that?
It hadn't brought up too much with my people. Most of us have watched it, and I haven't talked to anyone that says, "Oh, these guys didn't do anything wrong." I mean, they did totally wrong.
Right.
I mean, I did a review of it on my podcast where they didn't start out wrong, even though I disagreed with some of their way they did it.
Mm-hmm.
They went over the line when that first kick occurred to that man's head.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that. You don't kick people in the head.
Right.
You don't hit people in the head with impact weapons or anything like that. There's nowhere in training that we learned that.
Mm-hmm.
Once they did that, and then I thought it looked like the minute stood them up and just went to punching on them.
Mm-hmm.
They almost, I made the comment, they went from being cops to almost looking like a street gang, a bunch of thugs just curb stomping somebody.
I do think it did look like a street gang. I think it looked like a gang of bad people who were very comfortable doing bad things. And by the way, they're punks. They're punks.
Oh, yeah.
They're straight up punks because they wouldn't have done that if he was uncuffed. You could tell the soft belly punks they were. I at least could. I worked with people like that in corrections.
Well, one part of it, towards the end, when you listeners have listened to the whole thing, after the initial beating took place and they're all sitting around talking, a couple of them says, "Oh yeah, he grabbed my gun. He grabbed my gun." I've been in situations like that before where I had somebody actually reach out and grab my gun when I was with other people. The first thing that came out of my mouth, I hollered, "Hey, they're grabbing my gun," to let everybody else know what was going on.
Right.
I went back and listened to it several times, and I never heard any of them say, "Hey, he's trying to grab my gun."
Mm-hmm.
And another part of it I went back and listened to when they were talking, one of the initial stopping officers said that he walked up to the guy and was like, "Hey man, what's going on?" The guy swung at him.
Yep.
I didn't see that happen. I watched it several times. It looked like he ran up there and tried to jerk him out the car.
Right, exactly. I mean, their stories are going to be picked apart. I think it's obvious as we're talking with our good friend Iceman, Motor Cop Chronicles. Again, when is your show on? By the way, when do you do your show? Let's talk about that.
I do a live show every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central.
Mm-hmm.
I put out audios either on Sunday or Monday at 8 p.m. Just audio.
All right, well, we're definitely going to, Mark, if we could just pull that up and just put it right into the comments, and so people know where to go and follow your show. You're a straight talking guy, and you know one of the things I like about the way that you handle yourself is you're not defending anyone. Do you get a little bit of pushback from the blue kind of concept? Because you seem like a straight talker. Like you call a spade, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're wrong, you're wrong. I don't just because you have the badge, I don't make you automatically right. I don't know if like I know people don't like you all over the place. I guess I don't pay attention enough to other people to let them bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of person either you like me or you don't like me, because I'm just going to tell you how it is, or what my opinion is, or anyway, my truth.
Well, and listen, I think the one of the realities of what you're doing is you're actually fixing problems from your perspective. And I wish more law enforcement were empowered by the people that are in political office to say to those people in these positions like yourself, Ice, that you go out and do your job. We once you're qualified and you're obviously been vetted out, and then you get the concept of this defund the police that comes along. How was that in your 20-something years as an officer? How did that affect you once you started hearing that energy? I go back to Obama as a real inspiration. How did that affect your job?
Go back to Obama and that stuff. He just took everything back from all the progress that had been made, just with the racism type part of it. And I wish more law enforcement could do what I do on the social media side. Unfortunately, a lot of departments tie your hands. I'm lucky enough that my sheriff allows me to do what I do. So a lot of it comes out of departments. There's departments out there that if any of their employees would even think about getting on social media, using a nickname or whatever, they would get fired or suspended and all kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I just want to say to you is I appreciate you being able to do it. I wish we had more straight talking people. Listen, I'm going to follow up with you. I definitely love to get together, maybe get a panel of some people on both sides of these discussions. But I want to ask you this in closing. I had a great conversation. I opened up with it today with one of my closest friends in life. And he happens to be a black man, and he happens to come from a community of, I'd say more, successful people in his community of like race, black people. And he was straight up talking to me and I'm going to get him on the show to talk about it. He was basically telling me how there's already a conversation in that small circle he has about these 5 cops, how they're going to get treated worse than a white cop would. What's your thoughts on that? That's something we need, because you can't, like, bad should be bad, good should be good, right? It shouldn't be like, oh, now all of a sudden we're going to create this even to a bigger racial issue because these cops are going to be treated worse because they're black. They beat and killed a man. They should be treated bad.
Yeah. Well, from what I've heard is someone will like, oh well, they're just doing that because they're trying to appease the white man and all that stuff. But I don't think it has anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Bad people are bad people. Good people are good people.
No doubt. And I think that's it.
Unfortunately, they probably will be treated a little bit worse because they always say, "Oh, you turned your back on the community" and all that stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They turned their back on humanity. Is what they did. Well put.
You know what? You're a straight dude who talks straight. How many more years are you going to do this till it's over?
I can retire in 2 years and 11 months. When I get to that point, we'll see.
And then you're going to hit the circuit. You'll be traveling around the country doing your talking tour. You'll be on all the networks.
That would be nice if that would happen.
Well, let me tell you guys, if you do go over and check out Motor Cop Chronicles and see Iceman, that's really he doesn't look as quite as handsome as you see in that photo. Just believe me, I know. So, Iceman, I appreciate you very much. I will talk to you later on. We'll get you back on next week, and always appreciate you coming on. Thank you, brother. Go and check out the Motor Cop Chronicles. Very good show. I enjoy the straight talking. And see, right now in the time and place we are in the history of this country, you need to engage with the folks that are doing the job. Those people, the men and women who are out there who are doing the job. And speaking of the people doing their job, let's go right back over to our producer. He's gonna. Oh, they're gonna be sitting up. It's like listen. I watch you the whole time. Yeah, I want you folded hands. So you just heard that interview with Chronicles, Motor Cop Chronicles, Iceman. What's your thoughts on someone talking the way he does, straight talking, and certainly from the perspective as an active law enforcement officer? Do we need more of that, Mark?
Yeah, I think we do. And I think as a society, we have lost straight talk because everything is so polarized and opinion based. You can't agree to disagree or anything like that. But this is a very serious subject, and it should be open talk. Have people actually, I'm in favor. I'm going to quote a huge liberal talking point. We need to discuss this. We need to be throwing ideas, people talking smack back and forth. So we can actually find out what is going on and how do we fix this.
100%. Now, you know what? You're making that point. I want to say this to any liberal organizations, politicians, anyone that disagrees maybe with what I'm saying. Please come on and let's have an honest conversation. You are always welcome. I don't care who you are. You could live under the bridge or you could be in the White House. You're welcome here to have a respectful conversation. We might disagree, as Mark said, but we need to have that conversation. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Mark, on that topic. So a lot of the other trending topics right now, what are some of the other stuff you're looking at that we're going to be covering this week, Mark?
If we have time, we could go into, actually, I really wanted to dive in with our listeners and people do some research on this, on the House resolution bill in DC 22. That was
Please bring it up. What are we dealing with?
That was the vote. I believe it was, I'll pull it up in a minute. I believe it was called for beginning of January, first week of January, protecting the country's, actually limiting Joe Biden's ability to sell our strategic oil reserves. And the interesting part about this is, I'm going to throw some liberal people under the bus, not the people, but our representative in Connecticut, who Joe Biden was the greatest, orange man bad, all this stuff. But they actually had to come up with a bill to stop from selling our oil reserves, which is for our country in emergencies, to fund our military, planes, ships, everything. And all 5 Connecticut representatives voted in favor of it, which is tying in to what you were saying. Joe Biden's going to be thrown under the bus already. The wheels are in motion. They're going to say, Joe is bad. We're not part of it. Or let's give, open our horizons. Are our representatives have an epiphany saying we've done bad, now let's do good? I don't know.
So economy, right? We come out of this Tyreek conversation, this tragedy of someone being killed, a racial conversation in the country again. And then you go right into the economy. Folks, if you don't think the economy and the oil barrels being sold or bought or mismanaged under this administration has any, it affects your community. You're paying more for bread and milk in the communities of color across this country and economically challenged communities across this country. It doesn't matter who you are. You're paying more because of bad policy. These all affect us. With some of the other trending stories, I do know that Hunter, speaking about this whole conversation with Joe, and I do think Hunter is going to be the Achilles heel. We all knew it. Some documents that were discovered in Hunter Biden's possession were documents that look like they were high security documents that might have came from a then sitting senator of foreign, chairman of foreign affairs. Anything on that popping up right now?
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing more of it. I've been following some stuff, but nothing really concrete yet. I'm trying to see what their game plan is and how they're going to play it.
Interesting time. So now I want to talk a little bit about the Pelosi thing and Paul Pelosi. The video dropped last week, according to the folks that were ready for this video to drop. We were going to see the smoking gun, or I guess in this case, the smoking hammer. And in this situation, I think I saw a guy that was mentally, off. And I also saw an individual who was also very old and fragile. And, I'm not going to sit here and say he was in his underwear for any mischievous thing. I mean, he's sleeping. You saw the guy breaking in. Why? What's the real deal here, Mark? I don't know enough about it because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I think there was, my opinion and what I've read, something was going on and they're trying to blame it as a break-in.
Well, it seems like that's what they're trying to do and certainly try to make it like a break-in. But was there something else there? This guy went right into his jail cell and actually did a call. We'll try to cue that up. And I'm trying to work on to get a psychologist on to kind of talk about how this country has been put into a frenzy, right? Think about, I go back to Barack Obama and all that, Mark, and you talk about how far we've come and how much this stuff has been given to us by corporate media and the corporate politicians of America. Football, did you watch it this weekend?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh, you were too busy. You were too busy working on the show?
Yeah, no. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, so I got nothing to cheer about.
Oh, so you're in the baseball season, as a New England Patriot fan would say as well, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to my Yankees.
Very cool. All right, Mark. The rest of the week, we have anyone booked yet, or what's the deal?
Yeah, we do. We got some good stuff happening. Trying to get some doctors out of Florida coming on, talking about what you can do to help, get healthy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Remember, Dr. Kendra Becker, let's send her an email if we could confirm that she's back on tomorrow with us as well. And again, Mark, I'm going to wrap this up. We're doing an hour today, kids. That's right. Getting out early. I'm going to go, I'm going to play hooky the rest of the day and go work on creating new content for tomorrow's show. So Mark, thank you so much for doing what you do. I'll finish up right now. All right, so there you go. There's our producer and the guy that gets it done behind the scenes for us right now. He's been jumping in. Paula had handled that job in detail to her requirements at work, kind of amped up a little bit. So Mark's jumped in. He's been a great asset to the team, and I do see the positive things going forward with the show, especially when we start to sort of revamp and really put ourselves, and I think in a different time slot is going to really help us grow. And then doing the interviews. Folks, I get messages. I get asked all the time, when are you doing the next long interview? Because, the YouTube style interviews, and I really want to get back to that. I think that's going to be where I enjoy the most, just sitting down and talking, especially about these tough topics like the racial divide in our country or the political, crazy that's going on, or maybe just the social issues of the day that, just don't get the top billing, but need to be talked about because they affect us, the quality of life in our communities. You'll hear me talking this year a lot about the most important thing you can do. The most important thing you can do is vote locally this year, as far as your rights are concerned. Oh, if Joe's coming on, I'm hanging in there. I'll hang on till Joe comes on. Get him on here, and we'll end with Joe Visconti, because who can't end a show, right, Mark, without hearing the words of wisdom from Joe, the man from Connecticut, Visconti. But, when you talk about these issues, there's some underlying issues that really affect us. Mark just talked about the economy. We don't pay enough attention to how we got here, right? How do we get into this situation? Well, many times, folks, it's behind the scenes. This has happened methodically over time. The economy gets driven down further and further. The plan here, by the way, if you don't know it, Joe Biden wasn't planning to just, Joe Biden's plan was to come into the White House. This is what they told him. Joe, you're going to do it. Stand tall, Joe. Look unconfused, Joe. Don't look psychotic, Joe. Get up to the podium, Joe, and just talk about the positive, Joe. And see, they were trying to set him up to regain this control. Well, I don't think nobody in the world anticipated what would be exposed for the facts about China, his relationship with China, his relationship with the Ukraine, and his son's connection, Hunter Biden, directly connected to the Ukraine that we are, I guess we're I don't know how many billions of dollars we give to Ukraine to fight a war against Putin. The very country that we lead the way in NATO, right? Under this guy, especially Joe Biden, we lead the way and say to Ukraine, you can't become part of the NATO nations. But what the hell are you talking about? And then when early on, when Poland wanted to, when the communities around Ukraine wanted to fight, the United States of America under Joe Biden said no. Why? Because it's strategic, folks. We have to have a war. We have to be preoccupied. We have to follow the bouncing ball in order to have these debates take up our time in America. We can't be in a country that's on the mend or fixing and moving forward. No. We can't do that because it doesn't pay the bills, folks. What pays the bills is dysfunction, arguments, and hate. That's what pays the bills in America. That's why we see the political scene the way we do. And you can hate them all you want. You can criticize them every day. You can talk as much junk as you want about them. The first non-political president of modern day time, it might be all time. That's an interesting fact. Ronald Reagan was a governor before he became president. Donald Trump was a businessman loved by the world, by every community before he became president. It doesn't seem like anybody really cares. No one's really concerned. Nobody's really concerned that we fall for the same old banana in the tailpipes. But when a guy comes along and he starts pointing out how bad news media is, like, listen, if you didn't like the way he delivered his speech, I'm sorry. I can understand why you feel that. We didn't offend me, right? Because I was more about getting the facts and the truth out there. The truth. Imagine that. The truth. That's the one thing we lack in this country. We lack the truth. And when the truth comes out, like what we witnessed in Memphis, you see, the truth is that we saw 5 very unqualified officers get rushed through the system because of changes by bad policymakers. This is what Donald Trump was talking about during his administration. He was criticizing the previous 8 years under Barack Hussein Obama. And yet when people speak like that, automatically, some of you that will hear me that don't agree with me or don't, sit on the same political aspect. And by the way, I'm not a Republican. I am a libertarian. I love this country. I love its people. And I love to have a little bit to do with fixing that problem in America. And I think I can contribute. I think I can. I think we need to encourage more people to think they can contribute to fixing the problem. Donald Trump didn't run for office because he wanted to create a problem. I truly believe everyone, including Barack Hussein Obama, he truly believes in his heart that he's actually out in front of these issues to try to fix a problem. He needs to take and pump the brakes and look at how he's done such damage to the American people. Just go ahead and recant 1 or 2 of these incredibly dumb tweets. Used to talk about everyone saying, take the phone away from Donald Trump so he can't tweet anymore. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, Barack Hussein Obama is just as bad. He just does it in a different way. And some of you will accept that. Some of you won't criticize it. You'll just, well, that's how it is. Folks, that's not how it is. It's not how it is. And if you can't call one side out, don't be a hypocrite and try to call out the other. I will sit here and tell you 100% that the Bush-Cheney administration was one of the most evil administrations ever served in the history of America. The amount of people and genocide that took place under those 2 individuals is appalling. You should be concerned. You should be alarmed of what took place under those 2 individuals. And we see what happened in Texas, even with the Bush family. They no longer have the energy. They don't need it anymore. They got the money. See, they achieved what they were after, the Bush family, to achieve. That they're trying to get some of the next generation into the political scene. And it's kind of struggling. But I can't give the Bush administration a pass. I can't give the Obama administration a pass. I certainly think some things during the Trump administration could have been done differently, and I can't give them a pass for those situations. But overall, I give the biggest grade of success to the Trump administration, the 45th president. Why? Because he opened up these conversations for truth and honesty and real talk. Unfortunately, the people who capitalized on this were the dividers. The great divider in chief, Obama. The great divider of corporate media, the corporate media frenzy of attack Donald Trump. And then when the facts come out, they don't come back and recant it. They don't ever come back with a story about how they were wrong with the story. How many times have you seen corporate media come back and say, we were wrong? Unfortunately, this problem is just going to get worse. The situation in Memphis is just going to increase the divide of this conversation in this country. And I'm going to say that 100% I want to speak to America, that I hope that we can find a way to have this real conversation once and for all. When we return back here in a moment, Joe Visconti, he's going to have an opinion on something. I'm sure it's going to be a lot more logical than me. And in some ways, you might think he's Zen-like. He's almost like a god of politics in Connecticut. Back in a moment, Joe Visconti. Joe, what's going on, brother?
Boy, you're all over the place. I catch you on TikTok. I'm seeing you everywhere, popping up in different costumes. The Cape Crusader.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm out working, dude. I'm doing what I love to do, which is actually talk and also hopefully try to fix things. I know you and I think it's inherent to people like you and I that we want to actually help, right? It's something we are after.
Well, it is. It's ideas and it's insights, and that's what you bring, and you have the courage to be able to do it. Listen, everyone at home or in their truck working or on a job site or wherever you happen to be in the office with earbuds on, you can't step up and say half the stuff we say. You can't say anything. Right. And really, that's the big takeaway of what's going on in the last, I'd say, 10 good years, that people have been silenced and they're angry, and either they check out or they get, I don't know. I can't even imagine not being able to speak my mind. I wouldn't know what that's like. And yet so many people I know whisper to me in my town and come up to me, and, half our town of West Hartford's communist, but the other half is just afraid. And there's always enough people to overpower them, but they're afraid. It's the fear factor, fear to express yourself. And one of the reasons is that I mentioned this on your show last time. People just don't have enough data and information and facts and history, current history happening every day, to be able to debate in their own mind, to fortify their reasons for what they do or what they think. And they turn to people like us who are informed because we're just glued to everything. It's a full-time job, and people don't know what your brain's like. It's never off, right? It can't be off. You're looking, if you're objective and you care about the world and humanity, you're not trying to game something for political advantage. You're looking at it saying, whoa, where are we going? What's next? And I said that in your show too. What's next with these people? They're not going to stop on the left. This is not going to, it'll be another sick, twisted thing that they pull, that they turn to claim a right from some innocent realm, whether it's children or animals or whatever, food, energy, just twist it and make it more bestiality, make it more techno, so you lose complete privacy and you lose complete freedom and liberty to act in the world and live in the world. That's what politics is, being able to just do what you want without a big bunch of rules like the Puritans coming at you. You can't do this. You have to stand like this, wear your bonnet like that, put your little thing over here. The Puritans did that. This has happened before. It's just at a level now, and it's got power and money like the world has never seen behind all these issues, that people little by little are incrementally losing more and more and more. And when they can't win, they'll just blow it up like in Ukraine with a nuclear war coming. When they finish off with all they can do, burn the place to put.
I want to ask you in regards to the incident that took place in Memphis. Obviously, it's the biggest trending story, and it's going to be for a long time, or at least for a while. Your thoughts on what took place? How did we get there? And what about the qualified immunity conversation? I was just talking with one of my cop friends, Motor Cop Chronicles, Iceman. and he was giving me his perspective live. Your perspective on what's going on in this country. Why did we get to the point where we're hiring unqualified officers like this? It was a gang of thugs that killed this man.
Yeah, it definitely was. I watched the video. It's horrendous. Well, you're in a state and you're in a place where crime is outrageous. So what led people to think that the crime wasn't going to just spread to even law enforcement or education or anywhere? Crime is crime no matter where, how it manifests, and lawlessness and all these things, including the cops that think and justify actions because of a better outcome or the attempt at law enforcement, the attempt at education, the attempt to do better, all in this glorified attempt. We're going to train your children about all these horrible things in education that should be for adults in their bedroom so that they could be better humans when they're older. I mean, everything's always for a good cause. And these cops, at that level, just you heard them breathing and running. Half of them didn't know what was happening, beaten, and the chaos, the confusion. There's no training. But you need the military down in that state. I mean, you need the military. Chicago, the same thing. We need military. We're way beyond National Guard and beyond cops.
Well, I think in this situation, qualified, and I mean qualified, vetted out, well-trained officers certainly wouldn't have handled the situation that this group of thugs did.
Who wants to be a cop today? Who wants to be?
That's the point.
My nephew just became an East Hartford cop a year and a half ago. And the stories he tells me at night, it's like, it's hate. Who wants to be a cop to get shot at? So not to defend their actions, but how you're going to find people that want to become law enforcement when the crime and the judges and all that. Again, these aren't excuses. But who you want trained, you're not going to get them. You're not going to get people unless you recruit them or do you draft them. You got to draft law enforcement, right? Out of college, you got to fill out your form to become a cop. It's forced on you. I mean, that's where we're going because no one's going to become a.
I do want to say that there are a lot of things that need to be fixed. I mean, we could go, and I'm talking law enforcement. I spent 21 years in corrections. I worked partners with on the streets here in Connecticut, covering the fugitive task force that I worked with corrections when I was on that assignment. But the cops of today, I don't even think they know the ability how to talk to people. It doesn't seem, and I'm not trying to bag on cops. It's not trained to them how to de-escalate a situation. Is my point. They go from
when you throw them into that kind of, I'll call it a jungle because it's a jungle. It's a political jungle down there in that state. And the crime and the murders are insane. And the revolving door with the mayors of all those towns, everything that they're doing there. I don't even know how the police officers, the people that are trained are able to even deal with the reality that if they make one mistake on 1,000 rules before they make an action, they're going to lose their job, they're going to lose their pensions, there goes their family, the wives, their kids in college. I mean, they are walking such a tightrope. And how can you act and respond when there's 1,000 prerequisites you have to go by in the moment? Again, these guys in the dark chasing somebody, and we've seen this story before. It's horrible. It's horrible what they did. And whether they were totally trained or not, it wasn't race. I mean, that's the thing right now. You can see it wasn't race. Those are black guys on black guy,
Well, yeah, I heard the mom this morning. She was speaking one of the interviews, and I can imagine to be in this situation to lose your son to such senseless crime. She was appalled that it was actually 5 black officers, and it caught me. And I have no criticism of the mom. She has every right to say what she wants to say. I'm not here to say that, but I will say, as a narrative, that narrative has been created in America. To say that a bad human just isn't bad. Me and Mark were just talking about it. Why can't we just say these were bad people? Simple. I wish we would.
Yeah. Well, in this case, they were black officers that profiled him, and a black juvenile or youth or whatever with the crime statistics. It's not profiling. It's a reality. Look at the numbers. So they're black looking at it, and this chances are whatever he's doing is illegal, and chances are it gets reinforced by the color of his skin. And they're black looking at that. And they're, again, those prerequisites that they're running through their mind, 1,000 other things. But there was no, I told you I believe in a lot of spiritual things. And for me, when people are doing crazy stuff, lots of times, again, not as excuses, but there's demonic forces that are running through this country at every category, every level of government, non-government, in people's personal lives. The gates of hell are opened, and they're just jumping on all kinds of people. So if you're not trained in something that's dangerous, running a bulldozer, working in the military with something that could blow up the world, if you're not ready, and you drug abuse, you name it. These are real things, and people do because we've discounted that. There's a reality, a world behind the world. Because of that, we'll find no answer. Our solutions will never come from just training and just from policy making. They come from humanity, from love, from human being, respect, and all of that is intangible. You can't teach Plato. You can't teach morality, and so. Again, this is another scene. Whether the radical left will try to weaponize this, go ahead, burn the country down again. You want to burn it down again? Go ahead. We got a 2024 coming. They're just looking for another reason on the radical left to burn the nation down. And it's true. This is what they look for. They feed on it. And
it seems like they definitely look to capitalize. I spoke in my opening. I spoke a lot about Barack Hussein Obama and his attempt to divide this country. He did. Especially after Ferguson. I ask you if you may, just tell me a little bit about your life journey, remembering what took place during the Ferguson, how the president of the United States immediately called about this racial war in the cities of this country and criticized the police officer who was later acquitted by the same people in those communities because of eyewitness defended him because he was defending his life. Never one comment, ruined this cop's life. How responsible is Barack Hussein Obama in this mess we're in?
Yeah, it's everyone knows the stories. Everyone watched it play. I think to answer your question in a different way than you've asked it, we all know. I don't care what the color of your skin, what your nationality, where you're coming from, what other country you're immigrating to, wherever you are. It doesn't matter. Everybody, if you paid a little bit of attention, you realize that something is out of whack in this country. We should be so far behind race. The color of your skin doesn't matter. Martin Luther King, the content of a character, that's gone. I mean, that's freaking gone. It's like, no, the color of skin means something, and it means we get this or we get that, or you people or whatever. And so it's a complete opposite of everything Martin Luther King brought in, and the progress that was made over the last 50 years. I mean, I'm 66 years old, so I remember when I was watching TV when Kennedy and King and all of that. I watched it when I was a kid, just as I don't know, 9 years old to 14 years old. And it was like, whoa, who are they going to kill next? Who's doing this? Who's assassinating? What's going on? And the cities were burning. We couldn't go into Hartford. I mean, it was just really like, whoa, I'd be mad too. And so that was a horrible time.
I appreciate you saying that. You know why? Because I don't think a lot of the next, this newer generation, and I'm a little bit behind you, obviously. Not that much. We're kissing cousins in that aspect. We're old enough to understand, but there's a population in this country of young people who really believe this is all that America is, like just terrible, bad juju that's been going on. I wish we had a better narrative being said. Joe, what's up with you? What are you doing these days? Your show, you're talking, are you starting in a new movie? What are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, well, I'm in love right now. I met a woman.
Yeah, I wish I could cue up some love music for you.
Listen. Oh, really? I'm old enough. I've got a beautiful woman. And for everybody out there listening, yeah, it does make a difference in my policy thinking. Everything we're talking about.
Oh, you're softer now. You're softer now.
Well, not necessarily that way. You use your heart much more. You're less vigilant. I've done it for 20 years. So at the same time, you tire of your own self, but you start to look at really what the left tries to pretend love matters only, blah, blah, blah. But you look at humanity, love, and what's going on with the world. We just love. Why can't we love? Why can't we love? Why can't we all just get along? Rodney King, why can't we just get along? What's up? Come on, man. Plenty of money, plenty of jobs, plenty of food, plenty of energy. We get the world's got the world by the balls. Let's just get along and do what's right and do what's helpful. Do what's helpful for everybody. Not pretend helpful, but real helpful in policy making. And really, I think the country is going to be fatigued in the next 2 years. They just don't want to hear any more of this. It's too much. Every day it's a different Jack in a Box pop-up, this issue, that issue, and we've all seen it before. The Americans aren't going to put up with it. You're just going to get tired of it, and they're going to want real. And I hope if Trump makes his moves and continues, that he realizes that and just tones it down in a way as a matter of fact, and just get out there with policies and very easygoing. There's no reason to yell and bark anymore. Everybody's tired. And again, the Democrat, Republican, none of that even matters. That's like
what's going on. What's going on in Connecticut? I mean, obviously you're in the know here. You've run for office. You've been involved in 20 plus years, but we had an interesting 2022 election, and obviously not turning out the way that all of us wanted. But how do we rebound here in Connecticut to make real effective change?
Well, it's the numbers
We're
in Connecticut. I know you're a union guy and all that stuff, but in Connecticut, we just have too many union families. At 500,000 union families, it's 1.2 million people plus the intercity permanent welfare class. You've got all these voting blocks that are just going to keep going down. They're too big, and too many people like Colleen Mary, leaving to Tennessee, and I've seen it for 20 years. All these great activists and everything, and just get up, they're fed up and they leave. So we lose so many retirees, and so many people just get out of here, and then we get an increase of Democrats voting block. So it becomes a game for governor, whatever. And it's always either 6,000 to 50,000 or 40,000. It's really a rounding error that we lose by, because we don't have the activists like you're here and I'm here. We lose them all. And then the Republicans themselves are just petrified to speak out against anything. And so what happens here is what good idea could we put forward? Any good idea we do, the Democrats shoot it down. It's a
Joe, how about you and I, Joe? Mark, we should plan this. Let's plan a day at the Capitol. You know, I'll dust off my media pass, and we'll go up there. I'll bring a camera guy, and let's you and I go up do interviews at the Capitol during session.
Let's do that. I know all the lobbyists too. We'll have a blast.
We'll have a good time doing that. Mark, you down for a trip? We'll go for a field trip.
Let's go say hi to everybody.
We will definitely do that. Joe, where can people find you right now if they want to check you out and any of the platforms you're going to be on?
Hit me on Twitter, Joe Visconti. Can't miss me. At Joe Visconti.
Go and check out Joe, because his words of wisdom, they could change your life. Thank you, Joe. I'll talk to you soon. There you go. Joe Visconti from Connecticut. Thank you for coming on today. The Motor Cop Chronicles with Iceman, just getting that real perspective of an officer who is serving currently actively in his community that he works, talking about, the real deal. And, we need real deal conversation. One thing Joe just told me, or at least I needed to hear, was the yelling's got to stop. And, I guess I get on here sometimes and I'm passionate, and I guess I can call passion, title it passion versus yelling. But he's right. We got to stop yelling at each other. We have to stop being angry with each other based on what we think the other person's thinking, and maybe start asking those questions of each other of what does it actually you think? And then have the dialogue that can take place in a normal conversation of why. Why do you feel that way? The same question I want to ask to my friends or the people I engage with when I hear things that I just don't think are right. I want to sometimes ask that question. But to Joe's very good point, we're all tired. We're tired. We're tired of fighting. We're tired of losing relationships. We're tired of having a country that is constantly in a debate over what seems to be a never-ending problem with no solutions by those that call it out. And I don't know how you get there. How do you fix a problem without identifying the issues? I get it. But how do you fix a problem without having an actual plan? See, the things we've seen by corporate media, the things we've seen by corporate politicians have been all about inspiring people to get involved, to get active and get engaged. And I get it. It's a part of the system. To get people into these topics, we have to, I guess, in some ways, shock them. But when you shock them into that moment, what happens? What's the benefit from that action? Did we see what took place in Memphis with this tragedy? Could we have avoided it? Could we have avoided this problem? Well, if we hadn't watered down the qualifications for officers, yes. I think that would have been one contributing factor. Would have it eliminated? No. If we would have seen maybe a supervisor on that team who would have had control, maybe. Bad policy. A lot of people are coming out and defending the chief of police in Memphis. And I'm going to tell you, Mark, can you pull her name up for me, please? The chief of police. And I will say that when I heard her speak, I truly believe there was a person of passion, with passionate, real honesty. And I'm glad that she's not getting thrown under the bus, but I want to ask America this question. If that was a white chief of police, and even if that white chief of police had just totally came out and did exactly everything this officer did, 5 black cops, white chief of police, would the reaction to that chief of police be the same? That's a question. That's a question. And without honest questions like those, we're never going to have honest results. That's why we are in this situation we're in. That's why we see this battle taking place in the inner cities across this country. We see what's going on in Chicago. CJ Davis, thank you. The chief of police in this situation I think, is being treated fairly, appropriately, and given a chance to defend that position as the chief. The deciding factor of what her future is going to be is going to be ultimately lawsuits, litigation that takes place when it has to go to her testifying and finding out exactly what bad policies were encouraged there. So we'll hear more about that topic. But right now, I just ask a simple question. With the reaction from corporate media, the reaction from the extreme left side of the political narrative when it comes to race in this country, would you have reacted the same way if it was a white chief of police? You know, that's a fair question. I mean, if we're really going to have honest answers and honest questions and honest conversations, we need to have these honest conversations with each other. Stop letting corporate media tell us how to talk. Stop letting the political system try to tell us how to talk. Just we have a conversation each day. That's what's needed. You heard it from Joe Visconti. He just said it. He just said it. I'm saying it too, and I keep saying it. I just want to have these conversations because you really can't just talk about all the issues you have, your problems, your issues with the situation. You have to talk about why we are in this situation, and that takes multiple people. You can't just have the conversation by yourself like I'm having now with you. We're going to get there. We're going to get there, and when we do, I think this country is going to be better for it. I think this country is going to have a better future for our children and the next generation of children. See, one thing that I can tell you is that the one positive of the crazy extreme, and I shouldn't say crazy, the extreme left policies have been that people are being raised in a much more tolerant world. I think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm going to say that honestly, but Joe brought up something that I want to also be clear with. As I travel around this country, and I've been in, I don't know how many states in less than 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and all exciting. And we'll get into that later on in the week, or maybe next week we start talking about some of the stuff that's actually getting ready to launch here with the things we're involved in. But as I travel across the country, I engage with so many different people. One of the things I love to do is just sit and listen. And, I've been in front of and with where I and the napkins are the only white thing in the room. Many situations like that. I'm talking many situations like that in my career, my pathway, my friendships, my relationships. That doesn't matter. I'm not making that a highlight reel. I'm just saying it's a fact. And I'm very comfortable in those situations. I have conversations just like we're having right now. We have the same conversations. I've also been with a lot of white folk that still think using the N-word is acceptable. And so there is a reality to this conversation that takes place in this country today that we are not brave enough to deal with. Well, guess what, folks? It's 2023. And, I posted something up here on my personal page, and you can see, it's as I share my journey with this whole process with you, and I think it's important that we do. I'm trying not to lose hope, right? And Matthew 6:15 tells me I'm trying, brother. Mark, I'm trying. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up, but it's hard each day to wake up. How do we do that? How do you wake up and empower yourself each day to say, you know what? I'm going to do right. I'm not going to do wrong today. I'm not going to do the wrong thing just because it's easy to do. I'm going to stand up against evil. I'm going to say the right thing so I can hopefully encourage positive, not negative energy. But yet, we all sit here and we spin our own 2 cents. We all start to give our own perspective. And as Joe said, I will reiterate once again, we fail to actually ask each other, can we have a conversation? Let's just talk. And until we can have that brave move by people in authority, such as corporate media, when have you seen corporate media inviting anyone on without attacking them out of the box to try to prove their very extreme liberal positions? You see, the problem in corporate media is we allowed people to take their own personal perspective, like I do here on this show. This is what we do, right? I get it. I'm not a hypocrite, but I also think when you allow corporate media to push narratives into the American people's, television or, whatever source they're issuing all this information, and all it is a divided narrative, this against that, us against them, and not an equal and fair representation of America. That's how you get in the position we're in. Race in America is a problem. But who is the problem? Who is really affected by the problem? Folks, we've seen communities racially and economically challenged across this country elect the same people, office, time after time after time again. Why? because of what Joe talked about. These special interests push in a vote towards these individuals who do favors in their positions of authority. They donate the taxpayers' money to nonprofits. They build statutes and commit to fixing problems. But folks, I want to ask you to do in this 2023 great opportunity that faces us here in November in the local elections across this country. You have a chance to fix problems at the local level first, and then we'll go into 2024 and beyond. But what you have right now in America is a divided country that the only way it's going to get fixed is not by the people in Washington, D.C. or the people on your corporate media, not by the Kevin Allen Show. We're not fixing it for you. It is all up to you and what you do for your country. Folks, we'll check you out tomorrow. We're going to finish right here. An hour and 30 minutes. Mark, good show today, brother. Appreciate you. Let's bring you on just to say goodbye because people love your look. Can't get enough of the white bald guy today. You know what I mean?
That's it. I'm the white bald guy. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We're going to keep digging and keep moving forward.
That's right. And why? Because we like to, just like the Mickey Mouse Club. Back tomorrow on the Kevin Allen Show. Mark, I'll talk to you later.